All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everything in between, welcome back to Axie Tuesday. We're here, take number 2, ready to introduce the amazing content we've got set up for you today. I'm Zayori. I feel like I've been around the world 5 weeks on the road. It started in Vegas, it went to Vietnam, the Philippines, and then ended in New York City. Fresh off the return of NFT NYC back home now in Puerto Rico. And I'll tell you what, it feels so good to be home. It was an amazing trip. It was cool to get to see everyone, do some meetings, sync up. Really a powerful trip to Vietnam, get to see the opening of the new Sky Mavis headquarters, meet up with the senior management team, meet some of our new employees, finally get to bond and connect with some of my Vietnamese cohorts over there that are a little hard to sync with on the other side of the ocean. It was really incredible. And I feel like I see the Sky Mavis vision. You know, I know what our mission is right now, and I very much can see the path to victory. And I'm excited to take some meaningful steps towards executing. Big news today. Of course, the bridge is now open again. Very exciting. Been working hard on that. And man, I couldn't be more excited about that one. Going to be able to bridge stuff on and off again. And all that ETH has been secured and restored for everyone. Pretty amazing stuff. And it's nice to have that chapter closed. Finally have that behind us. And this opens up for many more announcements to come. I hear land staking is right around the corner. And of course, we're going to have some stuff coming up with AxieCon and various other activities before too long as well. So a very exciting time here in the Axie Infinity universe. Very exciting time in Lunacia. Let's talk about New York a little bit, though. I had a great time. I got to give a 10-minute solo presentation. Good for old Sayori here to get a little practice on the stage before AxieCon. Also had a lot of fun talking about utility and NFTs. I think when you put these conferences into context, you got to remember how niche we are. We are the niche of the niche of the niche, you know, highest level being crypto and crypto gaming. And then within, or I guess really crypto, then within that, you've kind of got this NFT world. Then within the NFT world, you've kind of got the gamer world. Then within that, you've got these like collectible kind of card game style type games. And it gets to a pretty tight funnel. Even in this world of people that are super into crypto and are full-timers in this stuff, I often find myself seeing people not understand like the very basics of the difference between a governance token and a rewards like game token like SLP, not understanding the basics of, you know, utility and why Axies being the base NFTs that are part of that core game loop is such an innovation and why that's so cool, right? It's so much more powerful than just NFTs as skins in, you know, like a MOBA game or a first-person shooter game, but the Axies are actually representative of the gameplay in its current state, and that represents a really big challenge, but also a really exciting frontier for us to start tackling. So anyway, I'm excited to get my hands on that footage. I want to review it. I want to put it out on the social media. NFT NYC told me that they should have that out sometime within the next couple weeks, so something to look forward to there. But we also did that Samsung event. It was called Code Axie. We did a live stream of our panel there. It was myself hosting it alongside Gio, Ariana Simpson, O'Shiny, and David Lee from Samsung Next. It was a great, snappy little panel. It's about 30 minutes or so. I think we ended right on the dot. We talked about bearish conditions and market sentiment and kind of how to handle oneself and just did a little bit of anecdotal storytelling. I think overall still bullish on play to earn or play and earn, but not over the top. So anyway, if you haven't seen that, check it out. It's on the Axie YouTube. It very well could be where you're watching this Axie Tuesday right now. Check out that panel. Highly recommend it. It also led to a really great event. It was a guest list event, so you had to RSVP, but it looked like a great turnout. A lot of familiar faces. I recognized a lot of Mystic holders, a lot of community members, a lot of people that have been kind of following us around on the Axie circuit. So it was really exciting and very bullish for me personally to see so many of these hardcore Axie fans that have stuck with it thick and thin. It was great to see so many of those faces. I, however, hid inside the podcast glass booth for most of the night. That's where I found my sweet spot. This Samsung studio, boy, did they have a sick setup. They had the stage where we hosted the panel, but they also had this all transparent kind of glass box that was a soundproof room where they had 4 mics set up. They had a little Samsung phone there. I say little, it had like 5 freaking cameras on it. And it recorded some footage for us. So I just pulled people in, some friends, some comrades, some people that I actually got to meet for the first time even earlier that night, pulled them in to do some interviews and record some content. So that's what we're going to be doing for Axie Tuesday today. And I actually filmed enough content that we're going to do this style for this Axie Tuesday and the next one. So I hope that you enjoy it. It's broken into 2 parts, both this week and next week's. This week, the first portion is going to be with Cloud White and my buddy JD Hyper, 2 folks that I would kind of fancy as besties at this point, but from very different generations in my life, as we talk about in the podcast itself. My old bestie, my new bestie, just surrounded by besties. It's a fun kind of raw, real talk type environment, so definitely a little bit different than what we normally have here on Axie Tuesday, but I think you'll enjoy it nonetheless. We'll come back after that, and I'll introduce the second portion, but just to tease you a little bit, it's with Zero X Guru and Bill Elafros from Beat Esports, and then we also end up being joined by Ryan from Meditate. We get about half that conversation, then I'll leave you with a nice little cliffhanger before Axie Tuesday next week. So we'll have a double header of Axie Tuesdays, and then we'll try to get back on this every other week, kind of regular cadence, and keep things going until we take off for AxieCon. So very much a lot to look forward to. Folks, without any further ado, let's jump right into the footage. Here we go with Cloud White and Hyper.
Just create opportunity.
Right.
So, I learned about NFTs probably December 2017. I think I saw a video on Vice News on HBO about CryptoKitties. And I'd obviously heard of cryptocurrency prior to this, but nothing regarding NFTs. This was kind of the explosion of that. Mm-hmm. And I've always been a collector all my life. And, the idea of digital scarcity, digital collectability just immediately identified with me. I got lucky in that Axie Infinity was one of these projects that was able to pull through on the other end of that cycle. Right. But, there wasn't actually a lot of options. And believe me, I did explore all of those options after CryptoKitties. It's just that Axie Infinity was the one that seemed like it could pull through.
Right. Like, a lot of people don't know this still, even though I feel like I've told this story so many times. Like, I tried to make a crypto game in 2018 with another Dota commentator who had just graduated from Waterloo, which is where Vitalik went. So there was a huge amount of buzz just around Ethereum, blockchain tech at that university. And he believed originally, like, wow, this could be the future. Then he tried to write code on Solidity in 2018 and was like, this shit's fucked. There's no way this is going anywhere. And he still doesn't believe. He lost faith completely after trying to do that. But we knew about CryptoKitties. We knew about the headlines. That was part of what jump-started it. And when I discovered Axie as part of our market research, at the time, our developer was like, guys, we've got 2 smart contracts. I think I might need like 3 or 4. This is getting kind of complicated. And then we creeped on Axie. He's like, 35 smart contracts? I'm out. Peace. I'm going back to Dota. I'll see you guys later. I'm going to go yell about video games I understand. But it was like an eye-opening experience to be able to go through that and see some of the pain points. But like, if I go back and read the abstract, we called it a business plan, not a white paper back then. Right. We had like NFTs, but we didn't call them
outline
NFTs.
Of a company.
Dude, we called them back then just like non-fungible things on the blockchain.
Sure,
like we seriously, like, NFT hadn't really been coined yet.
Sure.
So like I didn't even realize we were onto, like, I had a whole model for a deflationary economy and was just like, this is stupid. Nobody cares. Yeah. It's real, dude. Yeah, he was. It's true. It's like he was the one dude I knew in crypto that could at least steer me in the right direction. Yeah, he was like my only friend that knew blockchain. But no, like that was an eye-opening experience though, and it definitely like made me appreciate the thesis of like I see the potential here, but it just felt too raw and it wasn't enough to keep me captivated. As they said on the panel, Alex sent me some Axies. Like, yeah, thanks, bro. I had that on my to-do list for like a month of like, log in and use these.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Did you ever collect anything when you were younger?
Not in like any kind of a cool way. Like I had some Pokemon cards, but that was mostly because everybody did and I wanted to fit in. I was like this kid that had big social anxiety. It seems weird now. Like I'm outward now because it's a learned skill. I used to like I have to talk to a stranger on the phone. I got to go to the bathroom. Like, that was me as a kid, for real.
Yeah.
So I was just always desperately, like, not trying to be fake, but, like, trying to figure out how to connect with people. So there were a lot of fads that people collected shit.
Okay, but you weren't a natural
No,
collector.
I was too conservative with money. I was that kid that any dollar I got, I put it in the bank.
But you didn't see money in collectability?
I didn't spend money until I was, like, 18 years old.
Dude, so you have to understand, like, I was a kid who sold, like, Beanie Babies at the top.
So you were a natural
So
entrepreneur.
I was like 8, 9, 10 years old in a parking lot
sold
selling
Beanie
Beanie
Babies
Babies
at
out
the
of the back
top.
of my trunk. Like,
Holy
low
shit.
Key.
Yeah, no,
So,
I
you know,
was
and
never
if you
like
look
that.
at, like, Jeff, like Jiho, right? Like, he also comes from a collecting family.
He was a bug guy,
His- Yeah,
dude. He
his
collected
dad collected
bugs
bugs.
and fossils.
So I think that the people that saw the potential in this early were people that understood collectability.
Yeah.
Right.
It really
Uh,
was.
scarcity.
It really was, because I remember hearing about CryptoKitties and I just didn't get it. For me, I mean, sorry to tell you this, I'm a hardcore gamer. You know, when I played games, especially at
Yeah.
that age, like I need to play against somebody else. I need to beat somebody else in the game I'm playing. I didn't really have an appreciation for art at the time.
World of Warcraft arena player right here.
Right.
Yeah, that's why I remember telling him, like, dude, you'd fit in here. Jiho was a WoW arena player also.
Yeah.
Pummel him.
So it wasn't until the real connection with games where you could actually battle people and own your own assets and all that kind of stuff really like just triggered in my mind. Along
just-
with like a token economy, it just all made sense. And that's really
Right,
when it
yeah.
clicked. Because yeah, I do remember seeing CryptoKitties. I still remember to this day like Steph Curry having his own CryptoKitty.
But he didn't. Let's
Oh,
be
he
clear
didn't?
about that.
Okay.
Really?
They got sued over that.
No way. What was the story
Oh,
there?
yeah. I
Did
thought
somebody
they
like
made 3 of
airdrop
them
him
or
a
something
crypto
like
Oh
kitty?
that.
yeah, this is a great early story that
Yeah,
will come out in a
it's a really-
documentary, a book someday. So, you know, CryptoKitties had, you know, the gamification of CryptoKitties is creating fancy cats, right?
Yeah.
So using the genetics to create a certain, you know,
Like a rare trait.
combination,
Yeah.
right? That then creates this fancy cat for a limited period of time or a limited number of mints, let's say.
Okay, so to be the first one to crack it,
Right.
you've like got the secret formula.
Right.
You got the secret sauce.
Exactly. Then they also had something, I believe they called them like exclusive kitties that were just outright minted
Yeah.
and then sold or auctioned off in these scenarios.
Yes.
And they came out saying that, you know, they had to deal with Steph Curry and they were going to have these Curry kitties.
Yeah.
And I can't remember how they were going to be
Curry
distributed,
kitties.
if it was through breeding or through auction.
I think it was an auction for
What
like
was it?
for some reason $1 million comes to mind. Like
Okay.
some outrageous number.
Okay, well, it
At the
turns
time.
out the company like had created this deal with a company that had some sort of rights to Steph Curry's likeness, but not true rights to it. And you know, Steph Curry and his team had no clue that this cat was coming about. I mean, it's one of the great early stories. So the whole thing, they actually have these cats minted. They are tokens. I don't know if they burned them or not, but they were true.
You know,
NFTs
now that
at
you
one
say
point in
that, I
time.
think I remember hearing about that, at least on Twitter or
Right.
like some articles or whatever, because it was a
I
bit
probably
of a
told you.
debacle. Maybe you told me.
And
I probably
now
told-
this is the
'cause-
best start. Steph Curry's actually in the game.
Oh shit!
You know, he owns an
He
ape.
could have been ahead.
I believe
Yeah.
he's working. Yeah, he could have been ahead.
You know,
now, you
That's
know,
where
all
I thought
these
he was a
dudes-
really early adopter.
Right.
I thought that.
Dude, I was
No, you
preaching
just-
like
you just-
ESPN's
you
gonna
just
pick
ruined
this
that
shit
whole
up. Like
story for me
CryptoKitties are
now.
gonna be huge.
I know.
Like that was the narrative that I was running.
That's what I
with,
still
you
tell
know?
people. I'm like, Steph Curry, he
Yeah.
has an ape. He's been doing all this Web3 stuff.
Right.
That's because he was a CryptoKitties OG, but apparently that's not true.
No, it's not true.
Dude, so
Okay.
actually, on that note though, of like celebrities owning apes, somebody mentioned to me this, like maybe we'll call it a conspiracy theory, that every time we see a headline of like this celebrity bought an ape, sometimes that's just somebody airdropping an ape to that celebrity's wallet.
Well, not just airdrop. You know, I think MoonPay played
Right.
a huge part.
Well,
in that.
sometimes it is a purchase. I totally believe that
yeah.
some celebrities are
Still a
buying apes.
purchase, but
I
it's
think some of them it's not
influence.
always it's like a vampire attack. You throw them an ape and you're like, "Oh my god, insert X celebrity here bought an ape." And really it's like, "No, somebody just put it in his wallet and he probably doesn't even know that he has it." Because
most people don't look at the transaction of the blockchain. They just click on the account
Right.
and yeah.
Well,
right.
I don't know. Were people being airdropped apes, or was it?
Well, I don't know,
that they
because
were
that's what you
being
mean. The transactions
influenced?
are often done like kind of off chain, where it's not like you see how much
Right,
they
it
paid
was
on
influenced
OpenSea.
by another.
It's like you just see the ape appears in the wallet, and
Right,
then, like he said, all these journalists go, "Oh my God, there's an ape in Eminem's wallet. He bought it." And it's like, I probably, but did he? Do we actually
Well,
know?
do you think that I would assume Eminem's aware of his
Him
ownership
specifically,
of,
yes,
you
but
know.
like there's been a number of celebrities that have supposedly bought apes that haven't really posted about buying their ape, and it makes one wonder: are apes being bought?
I just realized really quick. This is Samsung. Like, where are we? Is Eminem gonna hear this? I've been waiting for.
Yeah?
I'm
Is this
sorry,
the
she's
shot?
Gonna, she's gonna head out. This might be my shot.
Your boy
I've
Marshall
been waiting
Mathers,
to get a
dude.
hold of Marshall for years. And if Marshall, if you're out there listening and you are interested in the NFT space, please reach out to Cloud White NFT on Twitter. Happy to show you the ropes, buddy.
Marshall, if you're out there,
Marshall.
we got some things we'd like to send you. We got a whole a digital care package.
That's right.
Let's get it going
We're
on.
here for you.
All right, so this is a loaded question because our buddy Hyper here, right? He works on the Corns. They're on Polygon. I'm an Ethereum guy and a Ronin guy. Do you value NFTs that aren't on Ethereum or Ronin? Like, you're not a Solana guy, are you, Mr. White?
I'm not actually.
So,
no,
like, what's your gripe there? Like, when you see NFTs on Polygon, are you like, oh, this is the same, or are you like, what is this clone bullshit?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm not saying that these other chains or solutions aren't valid. I'm just not personally involved with them.
Okay, so you're a mainnet guy, a mainnet.
I'm
and
a
Ronin
mainnet
guy.
and hopefully, I'm a Ronin champion, clearly on the road to 1 million Ron.
Well, you've been accumulating, yeah.
I've been accumulating. But, there's not much there other than Axie, clearly, at the moment.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess you would call me mainnet and a Ronin enthusiast. The reason I'm actually not so enthusiastic about these other options is I've seen options come and go. So a lot of people don't really know this, but the initial land sale for Axie Infinity, as well as land items, the plan was to be on Loom Network.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a very early option that kind of tanked, and I really got burned on that pretty bad.
I mean, that was like part of the thesis of Ronin is like, hey, we need to just build this ourselves because the other options out there,
Right.
like Polygon didn't exist back then, right?
No, it didn't. So, it became a situation where I just became more or less really skeptical of other options. And to be frank, I should probably be skeptical of Ronin Network. But, I'm just...
Hey,
I'm
all right,
tied
take
in-
it easy, all right? I'm paying for that drink in your hand, so fucking slow your roll. But for real, I'm curious what your
should be.
thoughts, like, were you were bullish on Polygon before this? You work on some aspect of the Polygon stack, like even before unicorns, right? So you're like, I don't even put
I've
words
always,
in your mouth.
yeah,
but-
no, I've always liked it. And to me, so I view it like Ethereum, if you're going to do like one-of-one art or have like a big artist collection or even PFPs, a high-profile PFP, then you probably want to do on Ethereum mainnet.
Right.
But to me, games inherently don't need the same amount of decentralization as DeFi or these PFP projects that are really high-profile. Games, there's going to be more centralization to them. The game developers making them are going to have control of them for a longer period of time than DeFi and other protocols out there. So it just kind of, and apart from just the scaling solution and issues of trying to do something on Ethereum, it just doesn't make sense to me to have NFTs on Ethereum mainnet for games in particular. There are applications, I think, with art and other rare assets where Ethereum is the way to go. If you're minting on Polygon, you're trying to mint this rare, one-of-one art that you're going to sell for millions of dollars. I don't think it makes sense to do it on
I
Polygon.
completely agree with you. I just want to interject and say that, I just don't think that makes sense. I think art and things of status like that minted as the best version of, the token on the Ethereum network.
Like
makes sense.
collectible stuff that you don't have to engage with regularly.
So,
It's like storage. It's almost like Ethereum's cold storage, and some of these scaling solutions are like your hot wallet. Right? That's sort of a weird analogy, but
And I think that's how the game should look at it. I think, like, what we're looking at doing is putting some of our DAO and treasury and stored on Ethereum mainnet. I think that having everything on a sidechain, you just put all your eggs in one basket.
right.
And so
I
diversifying.
know all about that, baby.
So diversifying is always good. And Ethereum mainnet, it's there. It's there.
mean, even
why
with-
not use it?
Yeah, with like the Bored Ape land sale, like that was a really interesting stress test because it happened over a pretty long period of time, right? It was hours. It wasn't just a flash sale. We saw gas prices literally the highest I've ever seen in my entire life. People paying multiple Ethereum in gas fees just to try to mint this land. And like, sure, the network was expensive. It was congested, but it never went down. It always worked the way exactly it was supposed to. And it scaled to match the needs. And as soon as the needs were gone, she went right back to that perfect price where it's at right now of like 20 Gwei or whatever. And while that land sale was a little infuriating, and I remember watching it in real time with Mr. White here, who was, doing his magic with reading the marketplace, it was super bullish for me to just be like, wow, it works. Like, this thing is fucking battle tested as hell. I'm such an EVM bull. It's ridiculous. And that's what makes me bullish on Ronin, because it's a goddamn EVM clone. You know, like anytime I consult with people, they're asking me about like, you know, Solana or these other chains. I always just say like, I'm biased. I got to disclose my love for EVM, but like just stay in our neighborhood. And then the potential future of like, I see all these Ethereum virtual machines. They're all speaking the same language. And right now they don't really connect exactly, but like 5 years from now, I can totally see a world where there's more interoperability around these EVMs that exist kind of in their own vacuums right now.
Yeah, we'll have to see something that's really groundbreaking that you can't do with EVM that you can do with one of these alternative languages.
A
And we
real
just
innovation.
we don't see that. Everybody's copying what's on Ethereum, and if they're launching a separate blockchain. So maybe if there's some innovative thing that you can do, and you have a million TPS or some absurd thing,
million
like,
TPS.
like I don't know. If
I
there's-
love the TPS argument. It's so fast and efficient. Like, that's cool. You know, there were a lot of other, like, was Wi-Fi the most efficient and fast wireless internet? Probably not, but it had the best damn marketing in the world, so it won. Was VHS the best way to send media to each other back in the day? Probably not, but guess
Well,
what?
there was,
it won. Betamax or whatever the fuck it was called.
Betamax, and then there was the Blu-ray and HD DVD battle.
Yeah, where's Blu-ray right now? Who's got a
Well,
Blu-ray
and
player?
HD DVD is even more obscure.
HD DVD, dude.
Seriously. I mean, they say, I think it was like in some movie it's quoted as well, like, the porn industry. Or it was Tropic Thunder.
Oh,
Right?
gosh.
There's a brief scene where they talk about
Yeah.
how the battle between Blu-ray and HD DVD came down to the porn industry.
Wow, I believe it, dude.
Yeah,
Porn's
I mean,
the backbone of the
yeah,
internet.
that's
dude.
right.
It's weird. It's
I can
weird.
decide
but
what
true.
chain, automatic, or
We're all jacking
layer
off.
2.
You know,
succeeds.
I feel like there is a real use case in blockchain for like pornographic actors and stuff, because they're actually like strippers and all these people that work in the, let's call it the adult entertainment industry. They are victims of centralized finance,
Yeah,
where
sure.
they're not
They can
allowed to
close
use
their bank
PayPal.
account,
They're
they
not,
can
yeah,
do all this
exactly.
type of
Like
stuff.
they have to find all these crazy workarounds. Or like, hey, I have a bank in the Cayman Islands that takes like a 20% fee for me to do
Right.
anything,
Yeah,
and
right.
it's also not secure. It could disappear at any point. Like, there's
So
a real
you-
use case for
yeah.
blockchain and
Web3
adult
is the
entertainment.
future of the sex industry.
I mean, isn't like, if you look back, so this is probably hyperbolic, but I'm pretty sure like pornography was part of cutting edge innovation. Like a lot,
Well,
like
that's what they say.
the original
they
like
say.
video camera. The
they
first
say.
thing it was used for was to film pornography.
Right.
And
I mean,
like,
as soon as we had film, right?
Yeah.
We started filming people naked.
humans are obsessed
Oh,
with
yeah.
taking
You
naked
know.
pictures of each other. It's like in our DNA or something,
right,
man.
Yeah. We've
So,
been
like,
drawing them.
Why
for-
aren't we seeing like? Why isn't
drawing
Pornhub on the
statues,
blockchain?
Right.
Why hasn't
have you
Pornhub
heard-
launched a governance token?
Have you heard of this Egyptian text that's basically a pornography?
No, bro.
I
But
just
please rock
saw
my
it.
world. I mean, this is.
I just saw this. There's this ancient like Egyptian text, which there's sex and there's naked people depicted in other Egyptian texts.
Right.
But the way that this is displayed is very much in a pornographic manner.
Wow,
So it
wow.
shows that even the Egyptians were getting loose.
Wow,
you
even
know?
back in the day, like that's just part
Yeah.
of the human condition. Yeah,
That's what we're here
That's,
doing. right now. What? Can I go pee?
Yeah, well, that's
Can I
cool.
leave?
What are we at here? 25 minutes? That's probably cool. So yeah, we'll call it a wrap. I'm gonna like move around, find some other
Yeah,
podcast
find
folks.
someone
But this
if you
was
wanna
like a
hang out.
great clash of worlds. I got my oldest best friend on my left and my newest best friend
My
on my
newest
right.
bestest and my
I'm like
oldest
this
bestest.
sandwich
Thank
of
you.
besties right now, dude. It's
Thank
pretty
you.
amazing. So, well, thanks for joining me, guys. I don't know if this is gonna be Axie Tuesday or what, but this was awesome, and we're gonna be back with a little bit more.
All right. Yes, indeed. It'll be here for Axie Tuesday. What a great vibe. Just watching that takes me back to the event and makes me feel the willies that I felt sitting there getting to talk to my buds, Cloud White and Hyper. It was a pleasure to get to pick their brains a little bit. We went down a dark rabbit hole, and good thing Cloud White pulled the ejector seat when he did. A man with good sense. Smart thinking there, bud. So up next, we're going to jump right into our next clip. This one is a little more esports focused. We talk about contracts, we talk about events. I introduced both the guests at the beginning, but Bill is somebody that I've known for a long time, and we definitely reminisce about some old stories of us struggling on a legal front and trying to figure out how to navigate contracts without a big budget for legal counsel. And of course, Guru, he's someone that I got to meet just then for the first time at that event, but somebody that I've seen on social media and certainly have engaged with a fair amount. So let's go ahead and jump right into part 2 of this Axie Tuesday live podcast interview from New York. Oh yeah, there's this black screen to build the hype. Dun, da, da.
All right, folks, here we are. We're back again in the Samsung A37 building, Manhattan, NFT NYC. It's Sayori. I got a Canadian sandwich around me. To my right, I've got Mr. Bill. That's the guy from Beat Esports. I've known this dude for better part of a decade, more than a decade.
10 years.
Yeah, something like that. He's a confidant, a trusted ally, an esports genius, a business mastermind, and now he's into the blockchain. This guy's killing it. And on my left, the man I just met for the first time in person, but I've seen him on Twitter. His name is Guru, and I'm excited to be chatting with you boys. This guy's from Vancouver. This guy's from Toronto.
Go West and East Coast. Let's
yeah,
go.
we got both corners.
Yeah, this is how we do. But boys, it's a pleasure to be here. We're definitely gonna unpack some esports. We're gonna talk some crypto. Guru, I'm gonna start with a little story here. The first time I really acknowledged who you were on Twitter, it was that famous Pegaxi tweet that I got very scolded for, and you had the most polite call out I've ever seen. And I don't want to dunk on anybody here, but the way you articulated hey, I disagree with this statement. Here's why. I think the way you presented it is a little irresponsible. I love you, but we need to do better. And I just remember watching that video and thinking damn, this guy is really thoughtful with his words. And there are not enough people on Twitter that are so thoughtful with their vocabulary. So it's a pleasure to have you on the podcast, man. I can't wait to see what gems are going to come out of this one.
Oh man, I'm so excited. And just a little bit of a backstory to that. At the time when that happened, I was really taken aback by it, because I was currently in recovery from COVID. So my voice wasn't even working correctly. And I remember just, sharing my points like anybody on Twitter who has a relatively big following. And something got brought up and I disagreed with it. And then suddenly I had a video response to it. And I remember thinking in my head early in the morning, whoa, what do I do to this, right? Am I supposed to type back? And I was like, you know what? Let's just jump on the computer and let's record one. COVID voice and everything. I was like, let's just do it raw, right? So
yeah. And Bill, I don't know how you handle social media these days. You've been through the ringer, right? You and I talk a lot about crypto in a very different way than most people that I engage with, because I think there's a really cool amount of parallels between early esports and early Web3 blockchain where we're at right now, right? A lot of overpromising, a lot of stacking futures, a lot of really inflated, over-invested companies. We're the Netflix of esports. I don't know what that means.
Absolutely.
And you hear the same kind of shit in Web3 right now. And it actually weirdly makes me bullish, because when I was starting in esports in 2010, my family, my friends, my colleagues, they all told me I was stupid. My parents said, yeah, you just want an excuse to play games. My real life friends were like, that's cool, but does that actually make any money? I can't tell you how many times somebody said to me, why would anybody ever watch someone else play video games when they could just be playing video games?
Yeah, I fully agree. I think there's a lot of parallels here. I remember early esports days, you're like, why would you ever host an event? Why would anyone come to your event? Are you stupid? And it's what kind of gamers do you come to your event? Are they a bunch of virgins or sweaty nerds? Come on, guys.
Dude, the tropes were real.
I know, yeah.
To be fair, those early events were pretty stinky, but still,
I've never seen a deodorant sponsor at these events. That's prime marketing.
I saw
right
it
there.
one time, dude. One time in Ukraine, of all places, one of the Star Ladders I covered for Dota 2. They had an Axe sponsor.
Dude, that is the future. Right?
Dude, that was that famous picture of me and gods. They brought in girls that were topless with just body paint, and they didn't have nipple covers. And they had Dota cosplays airbrushed on them with Axe logos on their bellies. It was very controversial. Even for Ukraine, that was controversial.
That's definitely controversial. You not gonna do that today, but
dude. But back in the day, MLG was sponsored by Hot Pockets, Dr. Pepper. The gamer memes were fucking real.
For real.
It's because you have to look at it, and it's the same thing we're seeing right now, actually. Because I know I was in that phase, but as a player, not as a not as a shoutcaster, though I wish I could have been. But you see that it's people, it's these companies and these brands that have a high risk tolerance due to their demographic that can explore into these areas, right? And we're seeing it a lot now too, because we are seeing some brands that have slightly higher risk tolerance come in and actually explore the Web3 space and start to put a little bit of that leverage out there and see how their audience reacts to it, because they can. So I think, you're right. There's a lot of parallels between it.
I mean, I do see sponsorships and advertising just as they were the saving grace for esports in a lot of ways. A lot of these esports orgs are very overvalued. I don't know how some of these organizations justify a $300 million valuation when you look at their revenues, but advertising and sponsorships are a big part of it. And when people ask me how do we make play to earn sustainable, I think part of that answer does come from legitimate sponsorships and activations with these huge brands that have staggeringly large marketing budgets. Like I remember back in the day being like, "Can I have $1,000?" And like that wasn't even enough money for them to read my email.
Yeah, I know. I think there's so much more money in Web3 and crypto, to be honest, than the early esports days.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I remember asking for like, okay, a couple headsets, and I was fucking hyped. Like, you know what I mean? You're like, oh yeah, I got some headsets, boys. Let's go.
Dude, the very
You know?
first tournament I did, it was with Astro. They gave us a backpack and a A300 headset, like
Yeah.
legit. And I was just like, I've ascended.
Yeah, man, you got Astro?
I've
Congrats.
done it. Yeah, like, and they were like a premier sponsor at MLG back in the
I remember
day.
I got Steel Series, and I was hyped, and then I could never extract money out of them though.
Yeah.
That was tough.
Yeah, dude, it's weird how like times have changed, but in some ways they haven't. Like, it's so weird to be. I'm 32, right? I don't know how old you guys are, but like I'm old enough now to be able to see this pattern of basically the exact same formula of what people were saying to me with early esports. People are saying to me about crypto now. And when I started in esports in 2010, I thought to myself, I was still a university student. I graduated in 2012. And I said, this thing isn't real yet, but I'm going to place a bet that esports is going to be real because I've been to these events, I've felt the energy, and there is something here, even if it's not monetized yet. And 5 years from now, when this thing is like popping off, I want to say that I've had 5 years of skin in the game when it's mainstream and everyone else is coming in being like, I want to have a cool job. Like, I wanted to be ahead of the curve, and it obviously paid off. And I see a lot of that with crypto. I tried to get it in 2018. Oh, it was way too early. You know, like a shout out to Jenkins, another Canadian. I just mentioned him on the last podcast. He graduated from Waterloo, wanted to build a game with us, and was just like, Solidity sucks. Like, I don't know how to write any code here. Where are the libraries? Where's the documentation? Fuck it. I'm going to go cast Dota instead. This seems way easier. But it's been a hell of a journey, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I don't know how many times we've shared stories or anecdotes on shady sponsors or other people, and you know, I think there's a lot of parallels, to be honest. Like we're pretty early here,
Yeah.
and you know, it's, you know, if you get people you trust early on, and
Bro, there was an event
journey.
not that long ago where somebody said to me that was a sponsor and said, I don't really believe in contracts. And I was just like, man, that's what people were saying in esports 12 years ago,
Absolutely,
dude.
yeah.
And I'm going to tell you what, I believe firmly in contracts at this point in my career.
Absolutely.
It's very nice to have a black and white agreement of clear expected deliverables and expectations.
I think contracts have saved my ass 3 times in esports, where like significant financial ruin, like not gonna lie. So I would definitely recommend them if you don't have them.
Yeah.
And then, funny enough, some of these Web3 contracts are worth toilet paper. Like, they're literally written on toilet paper. They're not even worth what they're written on. It's absolutely astonishing.
You know,
But that's a different topic.
There was an esports event so I used to be the CEO of a broadcasting company called Moonduck TV, and I won't say which event, but one of the events we did, we worked with this venue partner, and they tried to write in the contract, like, first we signed the contract, and the CEO came back and said, actually, we need to change something. Like, that's always the classic. Well, it's already signed, bitch. I don't know what you want me to do. It's like locked in, but yeah, sure, I can be a nice guy here. What kind of a premium are you willing to give me to renegotiate this contract post-signing? But they tried to write in. I mean, I remember Bill saying, this is Clown Town. They tried to write in 100% of all legal liability goes to your company. And I was like,
My
right, but we're renting your venue and your employees are staffing the venue. So like, I don't even understand how this could be legally enforceable. Let's just say, for example, one of your employees runs a cable and one of the attendees trips over that cable, but it was your employee that ran it. How could you legally justify that that's my company's liability just because we're inside your venue when that happened? And he kind of stopped for a second and was like, that's a good point. I
How
was
old
just
were
like,
you at the time? Roughly.
oh God, what was that?
This was 2020. I remember vividly this conversation.
Okay, so it was recently.
Yeah, I was probably
2019,
Yeah, I was like
2020,
28,
yeah.
29, somewhere in there, like late 20s. And like, dude, at Moonduck, I am not embarrassed to say I wrote all of our contracts. The only times I didn't write it is if the sponsor said, hey, we have a legal team, we'll write the contract. For all the layman's out there, the person that writes the contract has a lot more power and a lot more leverage because you get to define all the terms, and it's way harder to dissect someone else's wannabe legal lingo than it is to just write your own legal lingo.
100% agree.
One of the sponsors we worked with was pretty shady, and one of the things that we had to deliver was like X amount of interviews over the event. And there were some content pieces that were like, is this an interview? And I remember Bill saying, well, did you define what an interview is in the contract? I said, no, it just says 5 interviews. He's like, well, then you did an interview, dude. Because
you go.
the loosest
So
interpretation
10
possible
seconds. Hey, Zayori, how
is
you
an
doing?
interview. Did you bring a member of their staff on the live stream? Did you talk to them for 5 minutes? That's an interview. You didn't say an interview with a pro player. That might have been implied, but if you look at the black and white, what does it say? And that was a moment I was like, wow, I accidentally just gave myself a lot of leverage. Like, I don't say this proudly of like, we took advantage of a sponsor, more so just like, this was the degree of YOLO. Like, neither side had a lawyer, neither side had enough money to sue each other, even if there was a breach of contract. And it's just some random entrepreneur student writing a piece of paper that says, yeah, sure, we'll give you 5 interviews for $1,000. Sounds great. Let's do it. Let's go. Sign me up. I mean, I don't know if that was your esports experience as a player, but that was certainly mine on the events side.
Mine, I'll tell you, as a player, like as you went through it, it was very. I'm going to be honest with you. It was easy. You had to endure. Like there was a lot of stress, right? As a player, and anybody out here who's played even like basic level esports, like even on like a super maybe academy level, you'll realize there's a lot of stress. It's super stressful. However, outside of like the logistical side of it, it's usually very well laid out for you. You're like, you got to be here to do this, to do that. You have people like guiding you around. You've got somebody holding your hand all the time, assuming that you're in a effective organization, one that actually works, right? So you just get guided from
That's a
piece
big
to piece.
assumption, mate.
That's
Big
a good
assumption.
assumption,
Those
right?
Bozo
But you
esports
just go
teams.
through, go through the
It's
interviews,
like
and the
so-
funny thing is half the time, and actually it's funny hearing it from my side here, is people will kind of know when it's loose. Like I've been brought to an interview before, and I was like, all right, well, what do I got to do? Is there anything I have to do? And they're like, no, just chat. Like there's no reason, there's nothing you have to hit, no metrics, just do it. And I'm like, sign me up. This is
Yeah.
easy.
That's certainly something. There was a lot of just DIY, figure it out as you go. I can't tell you how many sponsors I worked with where there's like this game theory involved where not that either side is trying to be unethical or mess with each other, but like I don't have enough money to sue you and you don't have enough money to sue me. So like we both have this vested interest in kind of just making it work. Like that was how a lot of esports was built.
I mean, there were
Bill's like, I've had a lawyer for 10 years, so
well,
I don't capitulate.
there are instances like that, but I definitely had to pull out the lawyer on some instances where like
Yeah.
it was actually real, like it was gonna go to court potentially, and
Yeah.
then there were settlements, that sort of thing. I can't say which partners, but you can probably figure it out if you read between the lines. And,
Yeah,
and all that.
I have been a part of some of those events, and it is wild how you kind of can get stuck in the middle sometimes. And there are some unfortunately really unethical people out there that are just
Oh, yeah.
they're selling
100%.
snake oil and they kind of know it and they're unapologetic about just continuing to sell it anyway. And you have to be on the lookout for those people and make sure you don't hand over undue power. Like I learned very early on, like, dude, even NDAs in esports for a lot of years, they existed. Like there was some piece of paper that some people signed, but again, both sides knew, like, what are you gonna sue me if I tell somebody?
Yeah.
You don't have the legal power to sue me. I'm not even from this country. Like when you're talking about international
gets
business,
so messy,
because
man.
esports
Gets
was
so
totally
messy.
global. There are many times where I talk to my accountant or lawyer and they're like, dude, the amount you'll have to pay to get the actual legal answer to this outweighs the value of this contract by orders of magnitude.
It's
So
like $5,000 in revenue versus like 30 grand in lawyer fees.
it's
Like,
use your best
okay,
judgment.
yeah,
And like at my studio, we always had this like, sure, but like we'd rather just control the alpha. Like, and we just assumed everybody was going to leak everything.
Yeah.
Even if you signed an NDA with them, we assumed they were going to tell people. So you just control the drip of info and only share info with people if you're kind of okay with it being leaked or if they're like super trusted. And in some ways that's shitty, but in other ways it's just like adapting to the reality of the industry.
That's exactly what it is. And we see that right now in Web3 a lot, right? Like,
Yeah.
I have this philosophy and I teach it into my team all the time. I say, hey, look, never give enough rope to hang you and them. Just give them enough rope to hang themselves, and then you're able to judge their character and just pay for it.
Yeah.
Right? But you got to really take that into consideration, even more so. Actually, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on how that applies into the Web3 space with like sponsors, contracts, etc. Like, have you had any experience with it yet?
A little bit. So like in the Axie space, I'm like very lucky that we haven't had to deal with too many sponsors yet. We've consulted on some third-party tournament organizers. They're like, hey, we've signed this sponsor. Like, is that cool? Or can you help us negotiate? And if you're on like the esports grant, that kind of comes with a little bit of free consulting where we try to help you navigate. And like the goal is to enable our partners to build profitable business ventures on top of our stack. Like this, if esports is layer 2 on top of Axie, which is like the base layer, my dream is that we can enable through the grants some of these people to develop a business model of, okay, how do we generate ad revenue? How do we sell sponsors? How do we sell merch and stadium tickets and build a brand and, all of these sorts of things. It's really about incentives. That's what I always tell people, always like, if you're paying, don't pay 100% up front, right? You got to keep them hungry. Make a 30 to 50% deposit. That's fair. It demonstrates you have the money and you're willing to pay. Say, these are the standards you have to meet. Have very clear, like, if you don't do X or you don't do Y, then Z amount gets diminished from the deliverables or like the money we have to pay you. And then you leverage that to say, hey, we gave you enough to get this started, but now you have to deliver to unlock the rest of the money.
Interesting,
And
yeah.
you're sort of staking your reputation that you will follow through, and once it's delivered, you will pay the rest of the bill. The most I've paid is like an upfront is maybe like 60 or 65%. Usually that's for a production where they're like, hey, we have to build out the set, or hey, we have
Makes
to buy
sense,
all
yeah.
this equipment. We can't afford it, so you need to at least give us enough money to build the thing. And then, there's some good faith there. You have to do your due diligence. There is always that leap of faith, like, is this real? Is this an actual broadcast studio?
True.
Do they have the capacity
Yeah.
to deliver what
Yeah.
they're saying they can deliver?
Yeah.
It's all too easy to overpromise and underdeliver. So you have to protect yourself, and you got to play that game a little bit. But you never pay a sponsorship 100% up front before you've seen if the event
Absolutely.
can deliver.
That's foolish. I
That's
mean,
just
yeah.
black.
especially if it's the first time tournament organizer. Like, I would never do that. Like, if I was
Yeah.
a sponsor, I'd be like, look, your body of work is unproven. We're gonna maybe pay 25%. These are the deliverables, and if you can't make them, then we're gonna have a discussion, or we're gonna have a problem like here, right?
Yeah.
So that's what
Yeah.
I would do as a.
So we've got Cloud White joining us.
Hey,
He just
hey.
walked into the camera frame. They might have to adjust it. He walked right in front of the camera, but that's okay. He's going to rejoin us here, and we'll have
Hello,
a new
welcome.
body.
Welcome.
No. Actually, I don't know what the fuck's going on in here, but I wanted to throw in a little
Little color.
Please.
chaos.
Oh,
right?
Oh, I like that.
So my boy from Meditate over here,
Oh, is
Yeah.
that
we
Ryan?
were just taking a
That is
piss, and I said, you know what? I really like this guy.
Yeah.
Maybe we have him come in.
Okay. Yeah, sure. We're talking about esports. Bring him in. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's bring him in. Every time you open the door, we get a little bit of the bass, so it's good. Like people can get the sense of the real event that's
the
happening.
party.
here.
Look at that.
I see
Come
our-
on in.
Yeah. He holds the door open too.
Look at that.
Cloud White has never
in,
worked in
Ryan.
a soundproof booth before.
Yeah, this
he doesn't
is,
understand how it works. But welcome to the live show. We've got Meditate Ryan joining us. Ryan, what's going on, buddy? How are you?
Not too much. I'm happy to be here. My first time in New York.
going
Coming to a
on?
wonderful event
Welcome.
like this, seeing all these happy faces.
So, not that you have to reveal this, but where are you based? What's your normal? Because we got two Canadians here. I'm like the Canadian sandwich right now. So, are
Right.
you?
Yeah, what's the spice?
Virginia?
Virginia? Okay, not quite Canada, but we're still happy to have you.
Right. Still East Coast. Not
Yeah.
too far. I mean, I could drive here in like, I don't know, what, 8 hours, 10 hours?
That's
Probably
good.
Something like
That's
that.
good.
It's not bad.
So to get you caught up, we've been lamenting about esports and talking about the parallels of early esports and now what we're seeing in like early Web3 crypto. We were just talking about contracts and how you really have to build incentives around those things in terms of like if you're sponsoring an event, never pay 100% up front, pay a deposit, wait for the event to deliver, and then see what comes out and make sure they delivered up to the specifications that were
Right.
written in the clear contract that you had very, very laid out. But you've been doing commentary work in the Axie. I'm actually curious, are you an esports guy or are you new to esports thanks to Axie?
Very new to esports thanks to Axie. So I have grown up. My family has always been super into the competitive scene of Super Smash Brothers.
Your
Oh,
family
really?
is into Super Smash
Wow.
Brothers.
Not just me. So I come from a family of 7 children.
Wow.
And every single one of the boys, which is what, 4 of us, we were all super into Super Smash Brothers.
And we're talking Melee, right?
Of course.
Of course.
I'm
Come
just
on.
That's
making
the
sure.
only.
Just
That's
making
the
sure.
only game that's
Who's your
worth
main,
playing
Ryan?
competitively.
Who's your main?
Who's my main?
Yeah, who's your main?
Okay, so here's the thing. I was never the best of the best. I'm
Okay.
probably the runt of the litter.
Okay.
I played Luigi.
Okay, Luigi
My-
was a high skilled jab. Wow.
So my tag was Misfire Master because when I needed that misfire, I got it every time.
Every time. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, I always saw the competitive scene in Melee, and I even saw the commentators, and I even thought to myself one day, like, man, I wish I could do that. But for Melee, it never worked out, and then all of a sudden, Axie comes around, and
Dude, Melee is one of the most fascinating esports to ever exist. And I don't say that lightly because, I've been a hardcore Dota guy for a long time. I'm a little bit of a purist in the sense that I believe League of Legends, Dota 2, and Counter-Strike are the S-tier esports, and they are the only S-tier esports that exist today. All of the others are on a tier below and then some multiple tiers below.
Right.
Smash is so interesting because it's like actually an immutable game, right? Like every other esport has balance patches. It has things that get added, it changes. Melee, it was forced into existence when it comes to esports. Nintendo was like,
I mean,
fuck you,
they don't support
fuck
anything.
this, fuck everything about esports. We hate this vampire attack on our
They
community.
literally shut it down. Like,
They did.
events. They're just
And
like, no,
the
you can't
community
do
was
anything.
so strong. There were documentaries made. There were
Yeah.
people like Mewtwo King that painfully went through and counted the frames to like develop this meta. And you would think like, wow, this game's never been patched. Look at how broken these characters are. Jigglypuff's so good. Hungrybox is unbeatable.
And there are still new techs found every
Every
single
single
day.
Look at how much it's still evolving. It makes you
It's
wonder, like
insane.
all of these Dota and League patches where the audience is like, this sucks. We need a balance pass to fix. Like, is that
Ice
true?
Frog, please.
Yeah, or is that just like, hey, if this sat long enough, would people be able to crack the code and innovate
Yeah.
some new thing that like nobody even knew existed?
Yeah.
Melee is the poster child. It's like the only immutable esport that has survived the test of time. And now in 2022, Nintendo is starting to support it. They finally capitulated and been
Thank
like,
God.
these guys aren't going away. These
Yeah.
people aren't going to stop. So all we can do is embrace them. And that
Right.
resilience is like, it's really impressive. I'm not really a member of the Smash Melee community, but I respect the hell out of it because they were shut down like literally and still kept making it happen.
Yeah,
They said,
respect.
like,
They've come so far, and I think there was like the new way games are played online. I can't remember the technical term for it, but it's some
I know what you're talking about.
it's some form of the game where it's when it's played online, it's calculating multiple different possibilities of future actions so that it removes lag because it's already accounted for what could possibly happen in the next few frames.
Yeah.
So them doing this actually ushered in a new wave of every online game doing the exact same thing just because of a grassroots movement that Melee made. It's absolutely incredible.
Yeah. It's a very unique esport, and it's amazing to see it finally get supported. But God, I mean, chess is like similar, right? Chess is like the original like competitive game.
Agreed.
And the meta has evolved a lot over the centuries that chess has been around. The rules haven't changed at all.
Not
And
at
there is
all.
some
Never.
beauty to that. And like, not that Axie is immutable, like we still got a lot of work to do on the game design, but I think of those examples of like, this is kind of like the Web3 esports ethos of like, if you can build that quote perfect game, I remember early on, it's probably Jiho saying like rock, paper, scissors, right? No one thing in that system is broken. They're all equally balanced,
Yeah.
but one hard counters another. That's the dream of Axie. The dream Axie state is it's an expanded rock, paper, scissors where certain things hard counter other things, but there's this wheel of balance that turns where everything is perfectly calibrated, right?
Right.
That's a really hard game design goal, but that is the goal, is to
Yeah.
get to this point.
Now, to be fair, despite how much I guess drama there's been online about this patch and that patch, and trying to make sure that this is really balanced and truly fair for all players, I think we have found that rock, paper, scissors, and I think we found it multiple times throughout the several balance patches we've had in Origin. But it's really difficult. I mean, just to put it in perspective, Melee's been around for what, 15 years?
Yeah.
And they're still finding brand new things to this day. Origin's been around for what, 3 months? Not even 3 months. And yeah, so it takes time to really develop the meta. It takes time to really figure out what teams really work out, what the meta is, how you counter that meta, how you counter the counter. And I just don't think that we've had enough time to really develop that yet.
Oh, not even close. And that's like, one of the things that keeps me so bullish about Axie. Like, I spend a lot of time doing biz dev now with traditional esports orgs and trying to sell them on the value proposition of Web3 gaming, like adding value to esports. Some of it is in, things like USDC and just basic token distribution of like, hey, we can globally send money very cheaply now. And that opens up this sort of esports for everyone type model where we can pay out, deep into qualifiers because your username is your bank account in Web3.
Yeah.
That's actually really powerful. Not every game needs to have this crazy token structure. Not every platform has to have this crazy reward structure. There's a very basic infrastructure here
I remember,
that has a value add.
Yeah, I remember paying like, I don't know, a couple $100 on wires, just like
Yeah.
and then trying to get like the right wire info for like,
Yeah.
people not from North America. It was very difficult to actually pay people, in the Web 2 space. So Web 3 is like, okay, here's my
Totally.
Ronin address, here's my Ethereum address. Here you go. That's it. Boom,
Yeah.
done. 10 minutes tops.
Yeah.
And
Like,
smart
you know?
contracts. Have
Right.
you seen
Yeah.
how community gaming has
Exactly.
implemented smart contracts to
The
guarantee
automation
payouts?
is-
Yeah.
Shout out to
As a,
Greg.
as a
community-
player, as a competitor, there was a lot of times where you didn't get paid.
Yeah.
And that sucks, right? But now you can use smart
Oh,
contracts to
dude.
completely get rid of that. There
I mean-
is no, it's a trustless
Yeah,
system.
even as an organizer, there
Yeah.
are times I didn't get paid. It's like, okay, we performed this white label service and you guys didn't pay us. Like,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know?
like smart contracts
Yeah.
can't solve for every aspect of the human condition,
course.
but you can at least prove that you have the money to lock
Yeah.
up in escrow for a prize pool. Like in Dota 2, there were assholes that pitched tournaments with nothing more than an idea and said, hey, once I get the stamp of approval, I'm going to get the investors.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? They couldn't find the investors, and they still did the tournament. And when the tournament was over and the team said, hey, where's my
Dude,
money?
that was a major.
They were,
or
yeah,
was it a
they're-
major?
it was
think it
mostly
was-
minors. It might have been a major. It was
think that was a
what's his name?
major,
GESC. Fuck that guy. He's an asshole. He's a serious asshole. You know what?
He hit three Valve events.
Yeah, they like gave him
man.
all these events and he didn't have the money. Like
Oh
it didn't
my
exist. So when the
goodness.
tournament was done, he was just like, yeah, the money doesn't exist. Sorry.
Yeah.
Like what are you gonna do?
What
and
can
like
you do?
yeah, sure he got sued and like he didn't have any money to pay out
But the
the
issue
lawsuit
is,
anyway.
if he's like a shell corp, it doesn't matter. It's like, oh, you assume
Exactly.
my company has no money.
Dude,
whatever.
that guy,
Like,
the greatest part of that guy's grift was after all of that, after 2 events where he didn't pay out anything to anyone, he said, guys, you know what the best way to get the money back is? Give me another event, and then this time I'll actually sell the sponsor. Motherfucker, I will end you.
Yeah.
Like, that shit is painful. And the people that get hurt by that are like the players that are flying in from South America. They're like, this is our shot. We finally qualify
Yeah.
for a
Yeah.
minor. We're
There
on
was-
the circuit now.
There was no prize pool.
No,
There was
prize
no
pool,
prize
yeah.
pool. They didn't have the money. It was all like they had some money and they spent it on flights and hotels. And when the event was over, they're like, "Hey, that's a big red negative number. I don't know who's paying out this prize pool."
Yep.
And that's it. Then
Yeah.
the players in the broadcast town are the ones left holding the bill. They're like, "We did our deliverable. We did our work." And back then, there was no like, "Hey, I'm a broadcast talent. Give me a deposit for my work." No, it's you show up, you do all the work, and then you hope you get paid. And for a
Right.
couple of those events. They never. There's a document floating out there of all of the Dota 2 events that are just like, hey, this was never paid out. Anybody give a shit or want to like, push on this? And it's like it's over $1 million, I think,
It's
of
like- it's
unpaid prize
for
pools.
sure.
It's almost like a sunk cost at this point. It's just
Yeah.
like, this
Yeah.
is the cost of doing business at this point. It's unfortunate. It's actually horrible.
Yeah.
But, that's like people always, romanticize the esports, like, oh, the stadiums, the prizes. But
Yeah.
then the after fact is like what really happens. Like, okay, sometimes we don't get paid or, and we get fucked. Like, that's the reality.
It's,
Like,
it's like the dark side of quote decentralization, right? When you look at the spectrum of even traditional esports models, I look at League of Legends and Dota, very similar games,
Yeah.
completely different business models.
Completely different. I
League
agree.
is full franchise. We're Riot. We own everything. We are like the NFL of the
Yeah.
League of Legends scene. We have all the teams contracted. The team slot is this valuable thing that can be traded and moved
Yeah.
around. Dota's like, hey, we're Valve. We don't want to own anything. We do TI. The rest of you, good luck to you. Have fun in this this free market, and the free market will determine the winners and the losers. And we'll support a couple of these with prize pools. Everyone else, do whatever the hell you want. We don't really give a shit.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's like benefits and drawbacks to both. As an entrepreneur, I loved the Dota model. It's so funny. I went to PAX East in like 2013. I met Riot employees at an after party, and one of them said, "Oh my God, you're Zayori? You work at..." This was 2014. He was like, "You
Yeah.
work at Beyond the Summit? Wow, I watch you cast Chinese Dota overnight when I'm going to bed all the time. I fall asleep to you casting like every day." I was like,
hilarious.
that's not the compliment that you think it is, that you fall asleep to my commentary every day. But he was like, why do you
You're
do
like
Dota?
NyQuil.
Instead, yeah, exactly. He's like, why didn't you get into League? And I was like, bro, I tried. My original esports play was esports
hilarious.
radio. And I wanted it to be League of Legends radio because I thought Riot would actually buy it out and pay for an audio-only stream at LCS. But they had no replay system back then. They had no
Yeah.
open way to cast games. There was no Dota TV equivalent for League. And I said, bro, if I don't have an in, how do I get in? What do I, like, restream the LCS stream? That doesn't sound very cool with copyright. And he kind of made that... Oh, that's a good point. I was like, I got into Dota because it was just easier. They had Dota TV. You could buy a ticket to any tournament and just broadcast it and just make your own coverage. And
Back in the day.
that was what helped suck me in. And it was so interesting to see that like look on his face of like, oh shit, I get it. Not having replays is really kind of holding us back. Like this guy would have been a League guy, but he went to Dota because it just had a better offering for his entrepreneurial business. But
Yeah.
the dark side is that like some of those third parties will oversell and underdeliver by like a gross magnitude.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It happens all the time.
It happens all the time. He says, like, "Yep, we're just."
Well,
used to it.
I mean, those are the parallels too. Even in Web3, right? It's like you have these new companies and these new guilds, and they're like, okay, we're gonna overpromise, underdeliver, and the reality is there are parallels to the old school esports days too,
Yeah.
right? So
100%.
you know,
Yeah, I saw it a lot with the guilds. I deal with guilds all the time, right? That's my specialty. So, like, I talk to guilds on a regular basis. And sometimes it's even guilds who applied for the esports grants. They will come to me and they'll say, hey, Guru, can you give us a little bit of feedback here? Like, how do we approach this? How do we do this? We've never done it before. And, like, it's to the point where some of them don't even realize that they should be consulting with Sky Mavis to get support
Yeah.
for the grant that they've applied to, but they just did it under emotion and then they go through with it. And they're either an elementary company, so to speak. That's what I call a guild. Like, it's a brand, a company who's a little bit over their head, or on the other side, it is people who just in general may not have the capacity to do it, right? And they go in, they're like, oh, we signed up for this thinking it was what it was. Maybe they put a good brand deck together, they got approved, and now they're just completely over their head. And I tell them all the time, the first thing I tell them is you need to have a chat with your team, make sure this is something you can actually do, right? Can you perform? Can you deliver? Because if you can't, you're not only going to be putting a bad name on the esports scene in Web3, you're going to be putting a terrible stain on your reputation as a brand.
yeah, logistics are not easy for
No.
like any event. It's
Organizing
it's
humans is hard, man.
Yeah,
That's like my new
absolutely.
tagline. Organizing humans is hard.
You know,
I like that.
Yeah,
You gotta
I like
work-
that. That was a good part of the panel.
Yeah, you gotta worry about financials. You gotta worry about actual event execution. You gotta
Yeah.
worry about staff. You gotta worry about talent. Then you have to
Safety.
worry about players too. And then
Yeah.
safety is so underlooked in esports. It's like, oh,
Event insurance.
event insurance.
Oh,
What's that?
wow.
Security. Oh, let's just let the players go whatever. Like, guys, like this is just basic stuff. No, it's actually not funny because a lot of the events are just like free reign. You just like go in, you literally touch Ryan while he's playing, like literally, like to
Yeah.
that point. It's just like it's actually like there's so much to think about that these new organizers actually need consulting, right?
Shit,
Like,
bro. Hearing you say that makes me feel like I'm so lucky. Of every esports event I've done, I'm so glad nobody got naked and ran across the stage. 'Cause
Oh.
that would have been a ban on Twitch, and we did not have a security guard ready to knock that guy out.
That's where Slacks tackles someone in production cuts, or something like that.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, one thing though that I do like favor about the Dota model is that like there is some mobility there. Like as we start to structure out future Axie esports grants and like what does Axie Pro League look like? In my head, I think there has to be mobility, right? There has to be
Agreed.
opportunities for up and comers and giving opportunities for people to learn. Like to me,
Yeah,
that's a huge part of the
absolutely.
Web3 ethos and part of building a sustainable esports ecosystem. Like with the last grants, there were a lot of people that said, hey, these tournaments kind of suck. And part of me wanted to say, well, I know, because most of this grant is people that have never done tournaments before. And that's why we're doing it. We're like kind of placing bets on people that are able to follow the instructions. They're saying the right things. They seem to have a basic model. It's going to be a little messy, but if we just only give the opportunities to the best people right now, then the budding folks or the raw talent that hasn't quite figured out how to calibrate it yet never really gets a chance to go through that learning process. Like one of the most valuable experiences I have in esports was when I worked at Beyond the Summit. We did our first tournament, The Summit. We didn't have enough money for a venue, so we literally moved our furniture out of the house, moved into a hotel for 3 weeks, and turned our house into a tournament venue. My bedroom was one of the practice rooms that the players got to warm up in, and the broadcast
it.
studio was on the ground floor in the kitchen. That's as like grassroots and gritty as it gets. But at that very first one, the CEO of Beyond the Summit said to us, we had a little team meeting, he said, guys, we're doing something that we've never done before. Nobody here knows how to do a live event. We're all learning together. We are going to fucking fail times over. The one thing that's unacceptable is not learning from mistakes and repeating the same mistakes over and over. I'm expecting you to fail, but I'm also expecting you to learn and collect data from every failure. And as long as we turn every failure into a learning lesson, we're going to scale this thing to the fucking moon.
Yeah, I think that's the important part though, is like the learning aspect and,
Yeah.
and learning from the failure. It's like if you're doing the same things over and over and you're failing, and as a player or as a tournament organizer,
Yeah.
then it's like, okay, what are we doing here? Right?
It's like an ethos that repeat failures is actually when it becomes a failure.
Yeah.
But failing the
Right.
first time is just part
It's
of
absolutely
innovation.
okay. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
The same thing with content creation. Sometimes you have an idea for a video, you think, people are gonna lose their minds about
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
And then you put it all together, you formulate it, you write a script, you film it, you edit it, and then you put it out there, and it's your worst performing video of all
10
time.
views. 10 views. You're like,
And you
oh,
know what
no.
it is? Half the time, this is what I learned as a creator. It's that damn thumbnail, man. I'm telling you.
Right, the
Right?
thumbnail is so
the
powerful.
Oh my goodness.
Clickbait.
Hey, the content doesn't matter half as much as the thumbnail.
Yeah.
The
itself
reaction?
does.
Yeah, I hate, I
My
hate those videos.
4-digit to
Oh my gosh.
5-digit journey was thumbnail perfection. I'm telling you.
It's
I
sadly true.
Yeah.
I hate to admit how true it is.
I
Yeah.
take pride in the fact that I did not put my face in a single thumbnail until I did an interview with Jiho.
yeah.
That was,
Okay,
that
there
was
you
the
go.
only time I ever put my face in my
Love
own
it.
YouTube channel.
Yeah.
But we.
All right, there it is. Dude, that ending snuck up on me. I knew it was coming, but it happened quick because I wanted to leave you on a little cliffhanger for next time. We're going to do Axie Tuesday again next week, a double header, and we're going to have more of this content coming your way. We're going to give you the second half of that thing you just watched with the four of us chatting, and then we've got a whole nother piece with the guys from Quest. We're going to be talking about the creator program. I actually got to leak a little bit of action to them, and we're going to talk about or see their reactions to some news that's going to be coming out. So exciting stuff there indeed. I'm excited to be back on the path for Axie Tuesday. We'll be doing the interviews like usual for more timely, topical stuff after that. Like I said at the beginning, I'm not going anywhere until it's time for AxieCon. So thank you so much for joining me for another Axie Tuesday, folks. If you don't know where to find it by now, of course, you're going to find this thing on YouTube. If you joined us a little bit late, that's youtube.com/Axie Infinity. And if you're watching on YouTube right now, well, then maybe in the future you'll join us on twitch.tv/Axie Infinity. And you're probably going to want to follow that Facebook page as well. Also, facebook.com/Axie Infinity. All of these places you're going to find some bad Axie content. Make sure you find that Axie Esports YouTube as well. I think that's going to be in the description of this because more action is going to be popping off over at Axie Esports, and we're going to be uploading more of that content, more of those VODs on that new esports YouTube channel. So a lot of places to find content. The esports wing is expanding, and I couldn't be more excited to be bringing you guys all that action. So until next time, whoa, that's the wrong button. We're going to space, man. All right, we'll catch you on the next one. Thank you so much, folks. See ya later. Shout out to all of our guests, Cloud White, JD Hyper, and the others, Bill, Guru, and Ryan. Thank you so much for joining me on those live podcasts.